Awesome, at the front. I don't need to speak in here, do I? I can just, yeah.
One is stop working.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody to our GenAI for Developers meetup. It's awesome to see, first of all of our regulars attending, but it's also brilliant to see some young blood in the crowd, and especially the young blood. So that is awesome. It's very good to see you all here. My name's George Vossos. We've been running these events now for probably over 14 months. We've always believed that this, not only AI, but we've always believed that GenAI, agents, agentic, all of these sorts of things that you're hearing at the moment, we foresaw this a long time ago, that the future of commerce, the future of business, the future of everybody is going to be very, very much entangled in this phenomenon called AI. So just a little bit of background on myself. So because I've got so many new people in the crowd, a little quick bio of myself. So I did a PhD in AI law going back about 35 years ago, when everybody thought I was actually nuts. And my wife's in the crowd, and she still doesn't know what I talk about. So as it was a crazy thing, but the capabilities now are different, and we're seeing industries being transformed by AI. Now, I know that there are meetups, right? This one here is very, very different, because what we do here is we bring in the experts to talk to you about what they're doing. So you're going to not only have, some very esteemed people talk to you. These guys are on the tools. They're not just, parachuting down and just talking about what they've read on Medium. These are guys and girls that actually know their stuff, right? So what does that mean for you? What it means for you is that you need to pick their brain. Come up here, just don't let them talk. Interrupt them, right? Let them drill down on what they're talking about, because that's how you learn, okay? So this whole forum, the whole reason, we put this together is to educate everybody coming through at the moment, because the skills that people have are no longer relevant. Like, I think we can see it, right? So I am thrilled to have you all here. It means that people are sort of starting to understand what these impacts are going to be on people's lives, on people's, working situations. So that's kind of a little bit about me. So I've been in the area for a long time, and I tend to surround myself with people that, kind of know what they're talking about. And you'll be introduced to those people as we move through the evening. So what's the agenda? What's the format? So what we basically do is you're going to hear a little bit from me initially. I'm going to have a very interactive session. I'm going to tell you what I've discovered, or what I've kind of, understood about the changes in AI over the last 3 to 4 weeks. And then I also get you to let me know some of the things that you hear, or some of the things that, might be of interest to everybody here tonight, okay? That'll be very interactive. What I typically do is I have a board, and I will pick and choose unless you tell me something to drill into. So have a look at what's on the screen, because if there's anything of interest to you, please let me know, because we can drill in, okay? That'll be a very interactive session, probably goes for about 15 minutes. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call up some speakers. So we have Stephen, who's come all the way from the US to speak to us. He's from an organization in the US called Confluent. And these guys, if you guys know, now I'm going to just drop some terms and put your hand up if you know or don't know. Kafka, did I say that right? Kafka. Who knows Kafka? Anyone here know what that is? Beautiful. Well, this is the guy, like the guru, who will talk to you about, not the technology, he will talk to you about the use cases, practical use cases, and how his clients are actually using it for pipeline work, okay? So that's going to be very interesting. And then we've got Gurav from Oracle. So Gurav is one of our sort of founding members, and he sort of joins us all the time. And he's getting up for the first time to talk about something that I actually don't know too much about. So he's using, yeah. So he's decided to talk about a platform called N8N or something, yeah. Okay, so who knows N8N? Anyone doing any work? Oh, geez, man. Okay, I'm gonna be learning some stuff today. Now, how do we distinguish ourselves from the other meetup groups? We distinguish because we talk about commercialization, talk about productionizing. Okay, we don't just stand up here and talk POCs, and we don't talk theories. We get in the tools. And you're going to see like warts and all, because not everything in AI is pretty, right? So we're going to see not only what works, but what doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, what are those lessons that the real experts in the room are actually experiencing, so they can share with you, so you guys can not make the same mistake. Okay, so we'll do some of that, and then once all that's all wrapped up, that should take us to around about 8 o'clock. Then I might call up some people because we've got some threads going from some previous meetups, so we can sort of just update people on some of the developments, and then we go to the pub and have a drink, and you're all welcome to come and join. Does that sound okay? Okay, all right. So you've had a chance to have a look at the board. You let me know which one of these items you want me to drill into and talk about. The MCP stuff, huh? No mucking around here, right? All right, let me just get some glasses going. So this one here, right? This one? Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to sequence it through, right? I'll be very quick and I'll sequence them through. Now remember, you need to challenge me. You need to ask me questions. I'm going to get some things wrong, and some of the other people are going to correct me, but that's okay. That's how we all learn, right? But I'll do my best to explain it. So this particular article, so I'm a very big fan of Medium. Who here uses Medium? Okay, so I get up in the morning and I spend at least 30 minutes on Medium reading through what's going on in the world, right, as far as AI Gen goes. Okay, so I'm picking up these articles every morning, and then I basically anchor them here to have a little bit of a discussion. So these are the ones that have actually caught my eye. Now, this particular article tries to demystify some terms that I think are a little bit confusing to people. So it's talking about MCP, ACP, A2A, like what the hell is all this stuff, right? So hands up who at least has heard of these acronyms. Cool. All right. So that's very, very good. So you guys are going to be able to correct me when I explain it. Okay. So here's my attempt at MCP. So traditionally, the way that developers integrate into other systems is through APIs. Okay. So whether it's a web API, whether it's a RESTful API, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's an API. Now, anyone that's coded APIs knows that you can't just go and connect into a back-end system, right? What you've got to do is you've got to authenticate, you've got to all these protocols to get to the data that you need out of that system. So most of us that have coded, we've all, dealt with webhooks, we've dealt with REST APIs, we've done that sort of stuff. Now that is okay if you're creating traditional programs with traditional full stack. You've got your back end, you've got your front end, we know how to connect it. But we're essentially wiring it up. We're actually wiring it up. We'll have some enterprise services that we wire up and we use them, okay? Now you've got to understand, in the realm now of LLMs, how are they going to go connect to a back end system? Like if I want to connect to, to Salesforce, if I want to connect to a database, like how am I going to do it? Now, traditionally, before MCP, what people were doing is they were using RAG. Use your RAG tool. Go in, and you'd actually do that handcrafting that you'd ordinarily do as a developer, and you do it in your RAG tool, and you go call it, and it connects it. That's a bit inefficient for the LLM. The LLM can't sit there and pretend that it's going to understand the RAG tools and whatever. So what the MCP does, the MCP, think of it as essentially a pre-configured RAG tool that essentially can go and connect to any backend or any service through the LLM without the LLM needing to understand anything to do with the API or the adapter. I personally think of it as an adapter. That's what I think of it. But it can be dynamically discovered by your agent that is using some sort of intelligence able to connect to a data source. So it's super, super efficient. So what you're finding, so anyone in the industry now, everything is going through MCP. Joe, a couple of sessions ago, spoke about how, even if you're in Cursor, if you're in Claude Code, right, you basically load up on these MCP servers and you essentially get your LLM or your Cursor or your code to basically go and do its thing without you having. Okay? So think of it as an adapter. It's a smart adapter for LLM usage. Now, who wants to challenge me on my explanation? Who can come up with a better, oh, why did I know you were going to do that? All right, give me a better explanation. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what's interesting, and I'll come back here, what's really interesting, right? Like even in my world, I do quite a bit of coding, even in my world, I'm always having to double think, okay, what's my design pattern? My design pattern is an agent. An agent has tasks. Task is to go through some services. The services are going to go through some RAG tools. The RAG tools are going to go through the MCP. That's how I think of it. So yes, I'll have the MCP, but it's right at the end of the workflow. But I've architected it in a way that control it. Go. Someone had a comment? Yep. Yep. Yeah. So I think the point here is when we talk about what it connects to, it doesn't necessarily need to be a traditional CRM or ERP, or it can actually be something kind of more semantic. It can be conceptual, intelligent, 100%. It can still serve that purpose. Okay, so that was a long explanation just for the first acronym. Second acronym, let's have a go at this one. Yep. Yes. Security is a problem everywhere, right? Yeah. Okay, now it's actually a very interesting observation, because now the next two acronyms are going to actually help there. So the next one is ACP. So who's heard of ACP? Okay, so what is the difference between ACP and APA, right? So one of those protocols, and you let me know which one, clearly I don't remember which one, but one of those protocols is there for inter-agent communication, which is basically, whether you have an internet, whether you don't have an internet, if I want to be super efficient, for example, if I'm scared of some espionage or, some, hacking or whatever, I can bypass all of the TCP/IP protocols and I can actually get my agents to communicate inside my network without necessarily needing all the infrastructure. So which one's that one? A to A, agent to agent. Now, I think agent to agent's from Google. Yes, so Google's pushing the agent agent, right? So that's that one. That's a more, kind of think of it as more your local based. You prefer it because it's super efficient. You're not reliant on anything else, and you can actually get all your intelligent agents and your agentic stuff all working beautifully. Yep. So Google's pushing that. Yes. Now, this is now very interesting, and I know some of the people here have made some comments over the last couple of sessions. The next protocol is the ACP. Now, the ACP, I'm an ex-integration guy, enterprise architecting stuff with a couple of my buddies here in the room. And back in the days, we used to have this thing called middleware, and we all had a service bus and all the traditional bits and pieces. Well, the modern version of middleware in the agentic space, in the agent space, is ACP. Tries to serve the same purpose. So, getting back to Samuel's point about security, right? How are you going to solve these security problems? You're sitting there, you're trying to put something in production. Guess what? You need your architect to think about your service layer and start creating these connectors and all these things through MCP, and then you get these other protocols like ACP to actually give you glue to put your solution together. Okay? So architecturally, they're serving all different purposes. Okay, there you go. Okay, all right. Okay, so okay. Was there any value in me going into that level of detail for people here? I just need to sort of, let me know. Hands up if is that the right detail people are kind of expecting here? Is that cool? All right. Because I always get criticised that I don't go detailed enough here, so. All right, so that's one. Who wants to pick one more article? Because I think we're going to run out of time. And if I have time at the end, I will do some more. But is there anything else that captures people's eye? Agentic? Okay, let's open this one up. Which one in particular? The first one? Second one? This one? This one? Okay. All right, so here we are. We're at a GenAI meetup for developers. And so one of the things we need to be very, very clear about is what is the difference between GenAI, agentic, and agents. And that's what this article tries to identify. So, who wants to have a go at their explanation before I get shot down and give you mine? Go. Thank you. Yep. Very good. Anyone want to add to that or enhance it, or anyone need clarified? Okay. So, thank you for that, and that's a good exchange. So I'm going to just add a little bit over that, just a different perspective, okay? Because that was a very technical perspective. So I'm going to give you a more business-based perspective. Right? So what we know, like GenAI, are the LLMs, right? The LLMs. We've all used LLMs. We go in, we query them, we prompt them, we use some prompting, and we basically, okay? So we know that until about maybe, and this is how quickly this area is moving, right? It wasn't until, I think it was DeepSeek, probably not even months ago, came onto the scene that they sort of had this thing called deep reasoning, right? And now everybody's adopted deep reasoning. What's deep reasoning? Deep reasoning is you plan, you basically plan, you distribute all your tasks, you go and execute them, and you bring them together, right? So that's what a lot of the LLMs now are doing this, right? They'll basically work out exactly what it is that they think you want. They'll give you how they think you need to decompose it, and then they go and execute. Okay, so that's Gen AI, and that's agentic, right? That's agentic. Now, I personally don't like that explanation. This is just my take, just to help me. I think of agentic as a methodology rather than a technology, rather than a capability. And if you think like that, it just makes it a little bit easier for you because you say, yeah, the LLM is a technology, and you can prompt it, and you can prompt it as single prompting, or you can do, chain of thought, because chain of thought is what I've just explained, the planning, the decomposing, and the executing. And that's what that is. But when you move over to agentic is methodology, agentic architecture, because how are you going to put that collaborative team of agents together to perform something for the business? Remember? Because that's why we're employed. Business needs certain things done. So we have to think outcome-based. So we've got to think business case. We've got to think how that's all going to come together. You need an architecture. You need a methodology. You need a process. You need an approach. Now, this is where it gets like really crazy good, because now if you accept that as the definition of agentic, then it's easy to then move across to agents. Because agents are, and I think what the guys are saying, have a vertical application. They have a role. An agent in an agentic architecture is only just one very small component. So to me, it's actually got to be careful you don't sort of move through the process and think, oh, it's the agent that's like the bee's knees. Not. Agents actually get consumed in agentic. And if you've dealt with any of the frameworks, whether it's Crew AI, whether LangGraph, LangChain, I think so many of them. I'm a big fan of Agno, by the way. And if I get time, I'm going to show you some stuff I've been doing in that environment. So that's kind of how that works. So you've got to be very careful, because everybody, like an article like this, I read it and it just confused me more. And it wasn't until I said, hold on, no, agentic's where it's at, because agentic is architecture methodology. Have I confused everybody, or are we demystifying some of this? Cool. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. So look, there are more things we can, and we do this kind of at the start of every one of our meetups, and I'll always give you some choices, but I think we picked some really good ones today, especially for the new people here. You're here at a Gen AI for developers meetup, so these concepts are very understand. David. Okay. Now, this is controversial, right? This is where we're all going to, punch ourselves up, because everyone's going to have and I can see him wanting to punch you already.
And I'll put the expert in the loop. I'll put the...
Okay, Samuel, right of reply. Okay. So guys, right, and I'll end with this because we need to move on. You need to understand, when you're in front of a client, they don't understand any of this. They don't care about any of this. They seriously don't, right? What they care about, you know what they care about? Is that you're solving a problem, okay? Now, again, I've worked with a number of people in this room, and we've experienced this firsthand. You can be orthodox and pure about something, and say, this was this was the gospel according to, Moses, whatever. But at the end of the day, you need an outcome. So what typically happens in solutioning mode? In solutioning mode, you are essentially, it's a tapestry of things. You're going to have a need. I always call it's an automation, and part of that automation can or cannot involve AI. And then if it involves AI, what type of AI is it involving? Is it ML AI? Is it GenAI? Is it, decision tree AI? Like, what is it? At the end of the day, you don't really care, but what you care about, the number one thing you care about, and this is where you potentially going to blow the whole place up, is you need a consistent quality outcome, okay? The risk that we run in AI is no one can ever guarantee that for us, okay? So what I want to kind of convey to everybody in the room here is AI is no silver bullet. AI is a component, and that's why I like agentic, because inside agentic, you can have the workflow if you want to. You can have it being prescriptive, you can have it being reasoning, it can go and do its thing. Like, for example, in the Agno framework, for anyone, that's interested, they tell you how to configure things. You've got the knowledge base, you've got the sessions, you've got the memories, you've got all sorts of things. But the other thing you've got is you can distinguish your agent. Do you want it, right, going to the LLM like traditionally you do, or do you want it doing deep reasoning stuff? So they call it a reasoning agent. And so now, conceptually, you can now fine-tune the amount of what I call variability in your solution by having one of these agents that is high risk, because this thing is going to just come and do its thing. And you've got to put all your guardrails and all your safeguards. Now, can you afford to do that with an end-to-end solution? And forget about it, you're going to make it. So what I'm saying to you, in an agentic framework, right, you're going to be able to understand where your risks are and what is the best type of automation to put around it. But you need to maintain control. And if you've got any GenAI stuff in there, if you've got any reasoning agent stuff in there, man, you better think very carefully about how that's all going to fit together into an enterprise. Because you're going to blow the organization up if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, that's enough from me. All right, so hopefully you found that useful. This is kind of the format. It's very interactive, and we don't all share the same opinion, but we're here to share our ideas, okay? And please feel free, if something doesn't make sense, to let us know. Now, I'm going to call up to the stage Stephen, who has, very kindly from Confluent, our pizzas and our drinks are courtesy of his organisation. So thank you so much for your kind support. I'm going to hand this mic over to you before I get belted.
And we need someone to take mine.
Yeah, I'm done with mine. I'll hand over to you, Stephen.
Thank you very much.
He spoke to fascinated Kafka, and I understand big data that I'm going to be learning. Over to you, Stephen. Thank you.
Well, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here. I would like to correct one information George gave us. He said I come from the US. Yes, I worked in the US. But I think coming from the US, it could be true if we consider you the Wild West of St. Kilda. So I'm a local guy. I'm a customer success technical architect for Confluent. I work with 7 of our largest customers in Asia Pacific. I often describe my job as being the proactive side of support. So I work with these big customers, trying to understand how they use our technology, what their processes are, procedures, and so on. Try to identify what can go wrong and fix it before it goes wrong. Give them a visibility and say, guys, there is a change coming. It's going to be announced at current New Orleans in October. Don't take a decision right now. Basically, it's my job. Now, I was asked to do a presentation about AI, GenAI. Now, Confluent is possibly the only company in the world that is not focused on GenAI. We're focused on getting data from point A to point B wickedly fast and extremely reliable. Have you heard of Kafka, the product Kafka? About half of the people are nodding. Cool. So our founders are the guys who built Kafka. Kafka is open source. Confluent is the enterprise version of it with a truckload of stuff in it. And I'll be going into a little bit of details. The purpose here of my speech tonight is to show you how to get data from basically anything, all systems, more modern and so on, clean them, get them ready to be processed by AI and made available in an AI environment. I'm not going to talk about AI, I'm going to talk about how to get things done. I have 15 minutes plus 5 minutes questions, so please don't hesitate to shoot. Now, I would like to mention lastly, I stole this slide deck. I'm a lazy person. And I stole this slide deck from my colleague Alina in Europe. Now, her presentation is 70 minutes. And at the end, I'll give you a link to a presentation. I'm just giving you the sampler. If that makes any sense. There's going to be links for the people. Yes. So, it's organized by Alina, written by Alina, narrated by me. Okay. Who in this room is working with real-time data? Not that many. Who would like to be working with real-time data? A lot more. That makes sense because after all, AI with no data is completely useless. AI with all data is useful for historians and accountants, but not necessarily for anything real-time. You want an agent that rebooks your flight, but only has the information from the day before, probably not going to be very helpful. So what we're trying to do is how to move data from any kind so that it becomes immediately consumable. And by immediately, I mean immediately. One of my customers here, actually, 4 of my customers here, use us for fraud detection and credit card transactions. You take your card, you tap it on an iPOS reader, thank you very much. You tap it, thing goes into the mainframes, typically mainframe-driven, goes into our platform, gets enriched typically by an Oracle database, goes to a risk assessment system, and goes back before you get the answer. So this is what we mean by real time. Now, the old people in the room, there aren't that many, would say, it's not real time. Real time is nanosecond below. Yeah, we're talking about 400 milliseconds. Going the whole chain, validate, and go. That's what we do. So we believe that the world is full of these things, IoT devices, that generate truckloads of data. We believe that there is a lot of brains are not working. Okay, social media, databases, and brains are not working. Anyway, what I'm trying to talk is the opposite of monolithic microservices. We do have monitors indeed, but I was thinking about microservices. Produce a lot of data. And on the other hand, well, you want to enable dashboards. You want them in real time because what's the role of a floor manager in a hospital if the information is from the previous day? You want to have alerts. You want to have AI systems that are in real time. How do you get from over there to over here? Oh. Okay. So how do we get over there, from over there to over here? We believe there's 3 tools that you might want to have. The first one is Kafka. So we already know that about a third of the people in the room kind of know what Kafka is. As I said, it's a way of getting data from something to somewhere else. For the techies in the room, Kafka is really a distributed log. You have producers that write data into something, into the platform, it gets processed, and you have consumers at the other end to pull it out. So we think Kafka is the best platform because it's robust, because it's basically infinitely scalable. One of my customers right now is doing a benchmark, actually literally, now tomorrow morning, doing a benchmark. They're trying to run 1 million transactions a second, with each transaction being 100K. We're talking about real data over just 6 brokers, so 6 servers running in parallel. This is huge. Hope you believe me. Now, data needs to be cleansed. It needs to be enriched. So we're using something called Flink, which is a real-time database system. And we integrate this with Apache Iceberg. Do these names ring a bell for you guys? No? That's all linked to the Apache family of open source, but with a lot of enrichment. So the first part is real-time streaming, right? We know all these cases, but there's tons of other ones. Kmart uses us to give you real-time information in the stores, including these nice little robots that go through the aisles and scan where the RFID tags are in case things are misplaced. This goes through us. Basically, if you look at the Fortune 100 companies, all of the manufacturing companies use Kafka. 7 out of 10 banks use Kafka. What the other ones do, I don't know. All the insurance companies, 8 out of the 10 telecoms. Does it mean we're expensive? No. It just means that we scale really well. So if you have a project that starts small, you can start with a small environment and grow it linearly, both horizontally and vertically. Kafka, as I mentioned, the idea is you have a bunch of producers who produces packets, messages. They get thrown into a topic, which is basically a name to which you send data. And it gets consumed on the other side. Producers and consumers can scale. So if you are a period not much is happening, you scale down and you just run a few producers. When business grows up just before Christmas, a retailer, you just scale them up. Pretty neat. And to have everything run smoothly, you can create partitions which allow you to run in parallel, like multiple lanes on the road. That's the end of my description of Kafka. I'm not there to sell you Kafka. The second thing is my colleague prepared a little demo here where you see the kind of information that you would have. Notice that information is moving. It's interactive, it's in real time. So the second element is Flink. Flink stands in the middle, and it's basically intended to transform data. Take streaming data. You can take streaming data, you can historical data in databases, things that are stored in data lakes, anything really. Merge them together and produce something else comes through. And this is, again, real time. This is also something that has a guarantee of only once occurrence. So if a message, if you set it up properly, message comes in, it's only going to be transmitted once. So it's pretty cool, banks like that. Because you don't want to see multiple transactions for the same tab. Or you might want to get your salary paid multiple times. That could be more fun. So because I was told it's a very technical audience and you love details, I took an example and I want to show you how you do these things. Now, depending on how much you like it, please tell me hi. We go into more details. Down if it's too much into the weeds. So what we're going to do is I will quickly show how you clean duplicates, how you clean values with empty data, how is transformation on timestamps, filtering things out, and so on. So the idea of Flink, this looks your classical SQL. Anybody who is in IT knows how this is written. So we're creating a new stream called clean sensor data. And to do this, basically, we're going to populate it with an insert statement. It looks like a complete normal SQL statement with a couple of small things. This is the deduplication part. So it understands a sequence, and this instruction here tells them create a row number for each sensor ID and timestamp. So if you have multiple messages that have the same ID, the same timestamp, make it only one. And make only one is here. Damn simple. It means that an analyst who has a basic knowledge of SQL can start changing the data. And this is in your 100 millisecond loop, right? In between. It's not something you download to a database and actually Oracle database. It goes there. You got a few things, right? Data quality issues, you can just filter it. It's pretty easy to do. Okay, there's an issue with the timestamp. So here we create another stream. And again, it looks like a table. Let's create table. But it creates a table. It also creates a stream at the other side, which the whole infrastructure understands is a stream. So it's real time. And we are filtering out anything that arrives more than 5 seconds later than the other data. So this is built in. It's the understanding of what a stream is. And that's essential. Because if you want your AI to Ask the question, what is the most popular pizza place in the area? If you don't remove the duplicates, if you lose late information, you're not going to get the right information. So this is how you set up and say, I don't want any data that's older than 5 seconds, because it's probably relevant by now. This is for the techies, but basically every change transaction is going to be cut into two: the retractation of the previous instruction and the new value, which is really important. So we're transforming the timestamp. So it becomes, and now you see that our nice timestamp is now formatted the way it should be, which means everything behind it will understand it. Am I too technical, or is it the right level? I see a few nods, and the rest of the people are polite. Okay, thank you very much. And just the last example, slightly more complicated. Imagine you want this data to be in 1-minute buckets. So we create another flow, sensor data per minute, start end time, average temperature, the humidity, battery, air quality. And we create a long thing. And you basically just say, I want this to be tumbled. So this is basically, I do a block, then I do another one. I tumble like a cube rolling down the slope on 1 minute. And again, it's the key point. It's the understanding of what time is. That's important. And then we calculate average and so on. This is nothing new if you're into databases. It's quite normal. So now we have here the timestamps, the average temperature, the standard temperature, and so on. Okay, so we have data. It's been cleansed. It's been prepared the way you wanted. It's available in a Kafka stream. You can handle it whatever you want. But you might not want to be using Kafka streams, because you use tools that might not speak stream. Although quite a few of them do, because we're so present. So we developed something, support for Apache Iceberg. Iceberg is an open table format. And it's designed, it's not something that we invented, right? It's something you find very standard that stands between a data lake and a data warehouse. Is the difference between data warehouse, data lake something that's clear for you guys? So I see a few nods, but not that many. So data warehouse, data is structured. So you create a structure and you put the data in structure. That's absolutely awesome if you are old school technology. If you run accounting software, it's exactly what you want. Data lake, on the other hand, is you dump all the data into a data lake, and then you say, okay, I want this information, so I'm going to structure it afterwards. So data warehouse is structure first, put the data in. Data lake is put the data in first, unstructured or semi-structured, and then put the schema on top of it afterwards when you know what happens. It's really a good idea because data changes over time. So you can adjust and you can change things and nothing is going to break. Now what Iceberg really does, it sits on top of a data lake and presents as a data warehouse. It's masquerading as a data warehouse. So what we do, and again, this is it's a worldwide standard. It's used by Snowflake, by Databricks, by most of the big vendors and so on. You'll find it all over the place. So it provides a schema, to structure what data is where, which your AI tools will need. And what's this? It provides consistency, because it structures the way it should be, and it does asset support. The way it functions, and this is key, is basically you have a bunch of files at the bottom, micro-partitions. What Kafka or Flink does is if you set it up, it's a one-click basically, it's going to write files into micro-partitions. It's going to add manifest files that tell you what is where, what field, the minimum, the maximum, and so on, where they are, manifest list, and you evolve things with a meta file. Which means that over time, you're going to have more data. The beauty of this approach is if you can handle these two layers natively, this data becomes instant. There's no copy of data, there's no export, there's no manipulation, no downloads. It becomes available where it is in this. It's exactly what we did. To get data into Iceberg, which is the platform you will use for your GenAI tools, you'll need to read the messages from Kafka. You'll need to transform and deserialize these messages, because in Kafka, everything is a long, long, long string of data. It needs to be, use a schema to transform it into the data you actually want. You write these rows in micro batches to tables, measure data file. Okay, you have 4 ways of doing it. First, there is an Iceberg sync connector. It's pretty cool. The problem with the sync connector, it does not guarantee exactly one semantic. It doesn't guarantee that data is only saved once. Because if something goes wrong, it will restart and send it again. So it's okay if you want to receive your salary multiple times. It's not great if you're the one paying the salary. Apache Flink has a built-in Iceberg connector. It's wickedly complicated. I would not recommend. Apache Spark, that is cool. This is old-style technology, has been around for ages. Works great. Has one little detail. It's really complicated to set up. And if you're a startup, you can probably not afford the people who know how to do it. So if you use Spark, go for it. It's going to be fine. And we call this table flow, which is basically embedded in the engine. And I think this is where the magic is. It's the data is not duplicated, it's not replicated, it's turned on. I only have 15 minutes plus 5, and I didn't track track of my time. I don't know how I'm going, George. Okay, keep going. Okay, cool. So maybe later on I can show you how it actually looks in the system. But the key point is it's built into the platform. And once it's in Iceberg, once it's there, almost every tool on the planet can tap into it and get it. And basically, this was it. Are there any questions? Yes, I see a hand being raised. The coding language. No, Kafka is a distributed log. It's the technology that allows it to do this. Sorry, that was Flink. Yeah. Sorry? This is a Flink SQL. Yeah, so Apache Flink, which is a real-time database, and it sits in the middle of the stream. Good question. Personally, yes. Yeah. Yeah. 14 years. Yeah. Yeah. So I've used a tool called Glean, which is an internal deployment, and it does a really good job at writing code. Almost. Yeah.
We'll have a and build on.
Yeah.
So there is the business need. Business need. What's the business? So are we going to go and create data warehouses, this sort of stuff, like for archival, or were we talking about real time? So you've got to understand that's a particular business. So who can think of some domains that have need for example, financial systems? I think Stephen mentioned them. So you've got to understand if you're going to use something, why are you using it, right? So then we said that, and this is where you take the traditional IT, then you put the ML layer on it, right? So now we're in the ML territory, not in AI territory, ML territory. So what's the biggest frustration with ML? The biggest frustration with ML is you need to build models, right? How do you build models? Data, right? But how can you build a model with the data if you don't understand the data? Okay. So what we have just seen through those components, that you have a component for the storage of the data. In this case, it's Kafka, and in this case, it's a storage system. Okay, and you can do a lot of things with it. But one of the key takeouts from the way it works, right, architecturally, seems to be a pub-sub system. When you talk about a topic and you talk about sources and you talk about targets and consumers, old school you think pub-sub. pattern, right? So that's where it becomes super efficient now, right? But now, that's only part of the problem. You move to another technology stack, which is your ETL, right? Again, do not just take the data to build a model if you haven't cleaned the data, if you don't understand the data, if you haven't done all those ETL things, right? So that's, what did you call that technology? A bit?
Flink, yeah.
That's that bit. Okay, so we're mapping it to things we understand, right? So we've taken real-time data, made it super efficient to be able to get the dashboard because of time. So you've used PubSub, which is probably the most efficient IT pattern you can use. Then you've said we're going to do super efficient Flink ETL on it. So now we know what we're talking about, and and then you bring it into Iceberg. Iceberg's the next level because Iceberg says, guess what? You can essentially start hoarding all this data, but the hoarding of the data that you're doing is specific to your problem area. Okay, and that's I think that's how it comes together. So for me, when I listen to this, this is like super important. And remember where I'm in the stack. I'm only talking ML. We haven't gone to AI because the dashboard post Iceberg is not AI, is it? It's a dashboard. Okay, but if you don't get this stuff right, you will fail at ML and you will fail at AI. This is big, but super critical. And so Stephen's presented a method here that you can use, and it's open source, which is I'll experiment with.
I think you're absolutely spot on, and I'll get onto you. And sorry, go.
So you can so anyone can use data. Where does the data actually sit?
That's a great question. The data sits in Kafka. That means that when you have the publishers, they send information to brokers. Brokers store them on their local storage, and it's distributed storage. So you have multiple brokers. And each of them will store a copy of the data. So they store it and they maintain it and make it accessible by the consumers. It can be encrypted. It usually is, actually. Data at rest is encrypted. Yep. It is. Almost all the banks are using us.
Market real-time data.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I'm starting to see is great. Thank you very much. What I tend to see in my customers, they all start with one business case, and they get a couple of data sources, push them through the Confluent or through Kafka. Now, Kafka stores the data. By default, it's 1 week. But it can be, some use it eternal. Then it becomes a persistent storage. Some of them keep only 20 minutes because it's just in case something goes wrong. The key point is it's stored in the platform for a while until it gets processed to something else. This allows you to do restarts. It allows you a typical configuration would have 6 replicas. So data would be written into 6 different brokers. And there's more than 6 typically. One of my customers has 120 of these machines.
Getting the horizontal availability,
Absolutely, and you get the durability because it can run.
Yeah, a couple more questions?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, system goes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Flink in particular is designed out of the box to ensure exactly once semantics. Yeah. And it's even distributed inside the processing. So if we went into the details, you would see that flows, typically it starts by a process that gets broken into different subtasks and so on. They all run in parallel and they all run synchronously with snapshot at each step. So if a transaction complicated has 12 steps to be done, they will be done synchronously inside the platform, so that if something crashes, something goes wrong, the network fails, whatever, somebody trips on the power cable, you have a predictable place where you can restart.
Fault tolerance, part of it, but there's ability.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll have one more question, then we're going to queue up our next speaker, but we might stretch our legs a little bit, maybe grab another drink on the table. So one more question, then we'll take a couple of minutes of break, and then we'll resume. Yes.
Oh. I don't. We don't. It would be, this was actually here to represent the AI. So you run it on whatever platform you want that understands Iceberg. Now, this is just one of the methods, right? Yeah. And the key point of the Iceberg is the data is still here. The data is still in Kafka, but it appears, it's presented by Iceberg, which makes it instant.
One more question.
I
Yeah.
want to ask about start last year.
Yeah.
What happened last year was
Yes, absolutely. So originally it was designed, you said pubs hub. I don't like the expression, but I'll take it. But by default, it's set up to last 7 days, the storage. But basically, you can say, no, I want this topic to be unlimited. And then it's going to be there until...
the
Yeah,
extending.
yeah, yeah,
Excellent.
absolutely.
All right, one more question.
And there's
Go,
a gentleman behind who has been trying
Just
to ask a
conscious of
question.
time. Yeah, go for it.
Oh.
Do you have Iceberg?
Yep. Yeah, so I did actually play with MCP last year. It works pretty well, but it was without the Iceberg. It was talking directly to the engine. So we can do this.
All right, round of applause.
I'll answer your question.
Hello?
But what it is, right, is it only takes one channel.
Yeah, okay, so why don't you add both into this? So this one is working.
Hello? Testing. 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 Testing one. Testing. 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 Hello? Hello?
We need to work it out.
Okay, we'll get going. All right. So we have another 20 or so minutes left. So we're going to hand over to Gaurav, who's again one of the founding members of the AI group. He's usually the one that causes us grief, so feel free to cause him grief during his presentation. I know I will. I know I will. Okay. So Gaurav, he's been doing some interesting work. So he's been at Oracle for a very long time. He works with a lot of the implementation teams, so he kind of knows his technical stuff. I'm personally very surprised he's getting this level of detail, I must say. But I am very interested to have a listen to the N8N. I've heard about, but I don't know too much about. So it's another agent framework, and hopefully. So Gaurav, over to you. Thank you.
N8 new Swiss knife in my automation arsenal. Now, quick raise of hands, hand on heart. How many people have paid parking fines in the last year? I've paid 3 times, close to $350. And would you believe if I told you 100 million was paid by Melburnians last year in parking fees? How did you believe that? The actual number is 36.5. But anyway, that's immaterial. The point is that parking signs are so cryptic, they're so crazy to understand. And I've been struggling with ways and means to be able to understand them, be able to decipher, can I park here, can I not park here? And I've been trying to solve this thing. I tried to make a mobile app with that, spent a couple of weeks and months doing that, only to realize that I could do the same thing in 2 days using N8N. So what I'm going to be telling you about is, what is N8N? What can it do for you? And how can you leverage it to improve your productivity? It's essentially an automation tool which helps you become more productive. Now, those of you who have any background in agentic development, you have LangChain, you have LangGraph. There's a fair amount of coding you can do, building your agents. There are different architectures you can do, right? All that said and done. What N8N does for you is essentially speed up the entire work. So yes, there are agents that you can drag and drop. And to answer Joe, your question, the agent module in N8N comprises of 3 basic qualities. It's your agent, it's your model, it's the memory, and the tools that you can configure. So your persona, like you said, the context memory, and what it can do with the tools. Those are the 3 things that define what an agent is. So is it an agent development framework? You can say yes, you can say no. It's an automation framework. It's an open source framework. N8N is actually what they call a neuronym. I don't know about that word, but it's a neuronym for nodimation. The first N, the last N, and the 8 characters in the middle is what is the 8. So N8N. And it has a foundation in Node.js. So that's basically N8N. It's a neuronym. As of the afternoon, there were 5,384 pre-built automation templates that you could download and just use. Some of them are paid, a lot of them are free. But the basic idea is you can kickstart whatever you want to do, and there's a big chance that whatever you have thought of automating already exists as a template. So yes, the purists can try to do it themselves. I got a kick of doing it myself, but you don't have to do it. It is a visual, low code, and when I say visual, you can drag and drop. As I'll show you, I don't know how much time I have. You can drag and drop, there are things for an agent node. You can drag and drop a database. You can drag and drop Slack, components. So it's all visual. It's low code, but it does not mean that you cannot code. There are blocks which are code blocks where you can go and do whatever you want to. So it helps you. It's like Lego. You take different, you take a window from here, a door from here, a brick from here, put it together and you get a house. So that's what N8N does for you. It gives you the Lego blocks, but it gives you the flexibility that if you are a hardcore techie and you get your kick out of writing code, it gives you that ability to do that. Now, N8N comes in two flavors. You have a cloud or a subscription-based model, or you can self-host the model. And when I say self-host, you can, being open source, you can download 2 Docker images. One is for the engine itself, and second is a Postgres database, which stores all your workflows, your credentials, everything. So you download those 2 Docker images on your VM, run them, and you have N8N running for you. Now the flip side here, or the drawbacks here, is you need to patch, you need to upgrade, you need to do everything. If you go for the subscription model, that's done for you. I have taken the second one where I have gone for the self-hosted model. Now, through the next 15 minutes or so, I'll divide my presentation into 4 parts. The first part is where I'll actually show you how you can build a hello world kind of thing. Just, so I'll be integrating Slack with N8N, with an agent, which is using an OpenAI as the LLM. It has a memory block. And when you type something into Slack, it sends a trigger. There's something that listens to that trigger in N8N. Once you type it and send it, that trigger is fired. That fires the workflow, talks to the node, and gets back. After that, we're going to add a little bit more of context. And when I say context, I'm going to put a little bit of RAG in it. That's where the interesting stuff comes in, where how can you use N8N in my company? I have a small mom and pop shop. I have my own inventory. I have my own menu that I'd like to offer people on my thing. This is where you can come in. The third part is the interesting part is how can I tie in with MCPs? Now, there's a fair bit of discussion earlier about what MCPs were, how can we use them. So as a part of my initial phase when I was building this mobile application, I dealt a lot with MCPs, and I can talk about that a bit. And finally, there's this final phase where I have this Telegram bot that I have used. So those of you who are on Telegram, you can share, I can share the bot with you. And you can use it to point it to a parking sign and take a photograph, and it'll tell you whether you can park or not, for how long you can park. So that's still work in progress, but I'll take you along. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay, these sorts of things happen when you're in real time. But yeah, so one of the, I'll just take the opportunity. So one of the things that we are doing, these sessions are actually live streamed. So we will get organised and publish them ahead of time, but they are live streamed. So we've got people in Europe and the US that are actually, and we can say hi to those people because they are listening in. The other thing that we do is we have a YouTube channel. So all of these sessions actually get kind of edited at the right time and get archived to our YouTube channel. So if this is your first event and you want to sort of go back and have a look at some of the other interesting sessions, you're very welcome to. So yeah, we hopefully get some more sponsorship money and we can have more than just one microphone. That will be really good. But we're working on it. So yeah, and Samuel and Bo do a great job putting all of that together. So it's all volunteering work. So it takes a little while to get going. So Gaurav, just while we wait, so you're taking us through this workflow, and this is interesting because we've had discussions already, the difference between agentic and workflows and agents. So it sounds like you're going to be sort of stepping through what that realization is in this framework.
I will, but
Yep.
there are 2 things to keep in mind. One is, for example, when you're integrating something with N8N, you need to do some kind of background housekeeping where you need to set up credentials, you need to set up how this application, for example, Slack, how will that talk to N8N? Right? So that is time consuming, and I've not talked about that, but I can show people who are interested. So that's a fair bit of work that needs to be done initially to set up that basic handshake. Once that's done, then everything flows smoothly. So for Slack has its own things that you need to do. When you're working with Telegram, you need to you need to, start something called bot father, which makes a bot for you. It gives you a token. You configure that into, N8N.
Yeah. So guys, just while we wait, what are people's thoughts on no-code frameworks? Who's a fan? Like, who's actually using no-code frameworks? Okay. And so are we finding that because back in my days, we used to call them 4GLs, fourth generation language environments. They couldn't do anything, but I'm sure the technology is better now. Okay, so we've got the, and are we saying that this is a no code, or is this like you take the option of code or no code? Okay, so you've got the option. Okay. All right. Well, that's important to know because most of the frameworks around agentic get very involved. You kind of need to know your way around the code. But the good thing is that, and I think it was alluded to before, no one really writes code anymore. So, question for the group while we wait for our technical support to get us back up and running. Who here is actually writing code? Like, genuinely, be honest. Who's actually in there? No AI, co-pilots, none of this. You're actually in there. Serious, we've got some people still doing that. Huh? Yeah, so, okay, so hands up. Who writes, people that are writing code, who is using some sort of co-pilot? It doesn't matter if it's Cursor, it doesn't matter if it's anything. Okay, so everyone's getting a little bit of assistance, let's say. Okay, and I want to see hands up for the purists. This is classical. Awesome. Well done. So is there a reason you're still not using the AIs? Is it because you just don't trust them, or?
First of all, hi everyone. My name is David. I come from a carpentry background, so I'm transitioning into software. I was a previous mechatronic engineer. Yeah, so I did learn coding back in time. And I think, like, you see the division nowadays all the time, the vibe coding or not coding. When you are thinking about learning, definitely it's pretty good as a tool, but not something that you should get used to it, because then that doesn't promote the challenging part of it, which is what actually gives you the intelligence to work. However, if I see it is you're using it as an efficient tool to create solutions, build projects, then definitely you should be using it. For example, structuring a project, that's really good. Yep. If you want to know how to structure the folder for your backend and how to connect with the database, be my guest, use it. But when it comes to learning, yep, I think it's pretty much basically doing a test with an open.
Okay, and we've got one more purist. Tell us why you're not using AI.
Physicist, so using AI with academic kind of work is already kind of crappy to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Usually I approach coding as just assistant physics. So if I just tell a bot to do something, I'm not understanding the problem.
Understand. That makes sense. Okay, who wants to refute this statement? Like, why should we re-educate these guys to use AI? Who wants to give it a go? All right, just while we have some fun, because we're still having some technical difficulties.
So hi everyone, my name is Ali. The reason why we should educate pretty much everyone in every domain to use AI is because we're still at a very early stage, and this is going to get a lot bigger in the next 5 to 10 years. The earlier we jump on it and learn and educate themselves with all these tools, it doesn't matter whether it's Copilot, GPT, Cursor, they all essentially, the main goal is saving time and being able to produce more output. So, I love physics, I love special relativity, general relativity. I sort of do my own studies in the background, not really theoretically educated. With the blend of critical thinking and creative thinking, when you can imagine things that AI can't, and you sort of propose that to the AI, you can expand your knowledge in a way that you just couldn't imagine, you just couldn't do it before. It's just incredible.
Okay, so we've got some varying opinions there. How's our technical support going? Because I think we're going to be running out of time for this presentation. Yeah. All right, so Gurev, we've got maybe 10 minutes. Did you want to do it or did you want to defer it? It's up to you. If you need more time, you're happy to continue?
I
No
can
worries.
go as deep or as shallow as anyone wants. So as I said that, so when you're talking about Slack integrating with N8N, there is this initial handshake that you have to set up. Once you have set up that handshake, so let me now. This is my N8N instance, and I have set up a trigger. So whenever and just to give you a look and feel, so this is what the N8N interface looks like. You have the plus sign here where you can go and you can search for whatever tools or stuff you need to do. If you want to add Telegram, or you want to add Slack, or you want to add, there are hundreds and hundreds of integration that you can choose. Drag and drop wherever you want to. In most of these Telegram or Slack integrations, you have to have a trigger, something that listens to some event that happens. Once that trigger fires, then the rest of the workflow essentially gets invoked. Now, in this case, as I said, I've picked up what is called an agent. An agent has a chat model associated with it. It has some memory that you can use, and you can associate tools with it. Now, when I talk about the chat model, you can add parameters like the temperature to see how wonky it can get at times, how crazy it can get. There are hundreds of parameters you can set. Within the main agent, you can define what your system message is. You're a helpful assistant, you're a pirate, you're a tech bot, you're a, whatever. That defines the persona, as Joe was talking about. Let me not select anything here. And once you have got this entire thing running, and then you can define what's the memory. Now, I have selected simple in memory as my context with 5 previous prompts to be stored. You can then use persistent memory like Postgres, or you can, something which can have more memory in it, which can have it even after the session finishes, even after you brought down, N8N and started again. If it's in memory, you will lose context. But if it's stored in a persistent store, that will remain. So there are these various things that you can essentially, use. And once you have this basic thing tied up, you can start listening to the event. Now, let's see, hopefully, if everything works. So I have built what is called an app in Slack, and I call my app Hello World. So anytime I need to talk to it, I say, hello, how are you? Now, hopefully, demos always screw up. But when I type, send something here, hopefully I should see that the trigger pick it up and pass on the stuff onto the agent. Agent then calls chat, the OpenAI, and I have one final node here which sends the message back to Slack. So once I type hello, it says, hello, I'm doing great. How can I help you? How can I assist you today? So that's as simple as just drag and drop Lego blocks. I have a trigger, I have an agent, I define some behavior to the agent, and I define a block which can send the message back to Slack. That's all there is to it. There is no coding that I've done in this case. If I want, I can add, things like, what's the capital of France and stuff like that. Anyway, okay, let's try. What's hello world? What's the capital of? Let me listen to the workflow again. To respond back saying it's Paris, and because I have my memory that's been configured, if I type anything else, tell me more about this city. It should essentially understand that I'm talking about Paris and respond accordingly. I know there's a reason, because I'll be adding more stuff onto it, right? So I've intentionally, so in the, that's a good question that you've asked. Well, when I'm defining a trigger, I can define, what I need to do is define a webhook. So what's it that Slack is going to call in order for the trigger to fire? So there's a test mode and there's a production mode. So I right now working with a test mode, and that's why every time I say, waiting for the trigger to fire, and here and tell me more about the city. So it should know that I'm talking about tariffs and then respond accordingly. Hopefully it should work. There you go, right? So this is a very simple hello world that anyone can build. The most time it took was to configure the initial credentials and stuff. After that, it's just drag and drop. Now what I'm going to do is, so that's part one. Then you can even go and add, let me say I want to add vector, a vector search to it. I'll start adding RAG onto this entire thing. In the interest of time, I think I already have a template I can use. In the interest of time, where's it? I've done this. This is Slackbot in action. So adding, RAG. I'm sure everyone knows what RAG is. Does anyone need to know what RAG is? What are the basic components of RAG? RAG is retrieval augmented generation. So right now, whatever question I'm asking, it is sending it to the LLM, and LLM, whatever it's trained on, is answering back. Now, there can be cases where I have my own company, for example, right? And I want to use some stuff, some knowledge, some information that is private to my company. I don't want to put it into the LLM. I want to add more context or private context to my entire conversation or my bot. That's where I talk about this thing called retrieval augmented generation. So whatever prompt I give, it's then going to first, once I have set up my entire RAG, it's essentially going to first fire the question against my RAG. There are certain things that you need to do an embedding, you need to do a vector store and all those things. Assuming you've done all that, whatever prompt I do, that will first run through my entire RAG framework. If it finds a search there, if it finds a match there, that is going to be added onto my prompt, and that augmented prompt is going to be then sent to the LLM. So RAG is a step that you can think of like a pre-processing where augment your main prompt with any contextual knowledge that you can add onto it, and that augmented prompt is then sent to the LLM, and that's what answers everything. So I think I have 10:41:50. Let's see. George, if you want me to hurry up, I can hurry up. I can go. Sure. Sure. Okay.
So, did that make sense, guys? So
There's just one more thing I want to talk about since we're talking about MCP, right? I don't know how many of you know that the city of Melbourne has a large number of data sets that they expose. They have data sets on co-working spaces. They have data sets on microclimate sensors data. But I picked up something for on-screen parking bays, right? Because that's another problem that I always grapple with. I'm going to the CBD and I don't know where to park. So I said, let me try this out. And when I was building my, my mobile app in the first place, so I thought, let me build something which, so what I did was, I essentially picked up those APIs and I built my first, which is a Flask-based application which talked to those APIs. I deployed that into a Docker. Then I put another layer which exposed, which was the MCP server. That called these APIs which talk to the Melbourne APIs. And this Docker, this MCP server, then I added onto my Telegram bot. So now in my Telegram bot or in Slack, I can say, find me a parking bay near 150 Collins Street. It'll make a real-time search through MCP, and that's where MCP comes in, right? So you have your APIs, which are your Flask APIs. I add the MCP on that, expose those as tools. Those tools get added onto my where's that gone? Where's my browser gone? Those get added onto my browser, and if I can just show you. Yeah, so this is what the final outcome looks like, where I have added an MCP tool This is the MCP client, which talks to the MCP server, which is running on my Docker, which is talking to the Melbourne APIs. So once I have this running, hopefully if I run this, right, let's see if this thing runs. Hello world, find me a parking near 300 Collins Street. Let's see what happens. Post. So this was something that I was putting into my mobile app, and while you're driving, you can say, I'm going to Flinders Street, or I'm going to this such and such place. And it essentially gives me back Google locations, which I clicked, right? It opens up the thing into Google Maps, and then I can say, okay, navigate me to that place. So just a small thing, So just to understand what does MCP do, I have my Flask APIs. I add that tool layer which talk to these APIs. These tools were exposed as a server, and the server is what I configure into Telegram or into N8N. It's as simple as that. In a nutshell,
we'll take one question.
I sent it to George in March. He didn't respond.
You can tell people when.
Waz, what is it? Waz on your. Everyone use Waz? Yeah, Waze, I think they call it.
But it's crazy what you can do with those APIs that Melbourne gives you. I found it very interesting.
Thank you so much.
But anyway,
very entertaining.
Hopefully you understand what N8N is and what it can do.
Excellent. Awesome, guys. So, look, hopefully you guys got some value out of that. It's really nice to sort of see the implementations as well. And there are different levels of understanding. And look, these tools are becoming easier and easier to be able to do your little prototypes with and experiment with some, ideas that maybe you can monetize. So there is no better way than to submerge yourself in the tooling, right? Like that's the only way you're going to ever learn it. So look, we've had some interesting conversations tonight. There was a little bit more content. I would have wanted to invite some people up to chat as well, but I think we've run out of time. So thank you for your attendance.
I have time. You can just add Telegram in case you're using it. Try it out and tell me if it works.
Okay. Look, thank you for attending. Our next meetup is, September. So we've got October and November. So we've got another 2 events before our December event. December is not we don't actually do a meetup. We actually go somewhere and wine and dine and just let our hair down. So we'll, hopefully we get some more sponsorship to make it a really good event, maybe on a boat or something, who knows. We'll work on it. So look, please spread the word to your friends to please come along. We can accommodate a lot more people, although this is a very cozy crowd. I'm very happy with this crowd, but we can accommodate more. Please let your colleagues know, like this is how we build our confidence and this is how we understand the technology. Look, for next month, what I want to do is, we've had the no coding example. We're actually going to go into a more agentic architecture next time. I've had requests to do that, and we'll go through the power. I want to demonstrate the power of these AI coding tools. Now, again, no silver bullet in life, so don't think you're going to ask it and it's going to do it for you. This is where, and this is a message for the young people here in the room, right? Learn your craft. There are no silver bullets. There are no shortcuts. Learn your data. Learn your ETLs. Learn all these things. You're going to have to learn them. Learn your MLs, because you can't do AI unless you understand all of that. And then when you understand it, make sure you have learnt some of the basic things, like what it means to, design systems and design enterprise software, and all these sorts of things become important, because if you don't have that knowledge, you cannot guide the AI to do anything for you. In fact, you're going to be wasting a lot of time. Okay? So, equip yourself with the knowledge that you need. Coming along to sessions like this, I think, is really good. And we will delve more into things as we move forward. Now, that's all I had. We are going to get up, clean up, and then we head over to tap 831. Is it 831? Yeah, it's the pub that's down the road. If you want to continue the conversation, if you want to speak more to any of the presenters or myself, please join us. We're going to head down there in about 5 minutes. Thank you for your attendance. Hope you got some good value out of that. Thank you to Stephen and Confluence for putting on all of the food, and thank you to the presenters, and thank you to Samuel and Bo for putting all of the live streaming together for us. Until next time, have a